Hello, Lance, my man. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Beautiful. And thank you so very much for being here, my man. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Lance, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, my man, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, Lance, you are on this platform right now because you did invest that in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. See, Lance, a couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, my man, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it and the leaves are all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Lance, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, mm, a lot's changed about the mango tree, you see. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did. And it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And not just mangoes now, Lance. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day, and I was so, so excited. Here's my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Lance that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your philosophies, your insight, the impact your work is having, your journey, and how you are offering your solutions, my man. This stuff's so beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Lance is doing. And not only me now, because, I don't want to look selfish and even with the audience. And here we are today with the amazing lad. So thank you so very much for doing that to yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, my man.
All right. Yeah, you're welcome. Well, thanks for reaching out. I'm happy to be here.
Beautiful. So let's get started. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show today, Lance, for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge alone, but the application of it. And you see, my man, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness, ignorance. I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Lance on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, my man, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So those folks trust me for quality, high opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Lance, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So, for that reason, Lance, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Lance got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Lance, my man,
Yeah.
over to you.
Okay. All right. Well, I am about to be 43 years old. My entrepreneurial journey starts when I was 13. I grew up in Northwest North Dakota, which is a very rural area of the United States. I grew up between a cattle ranch and a sugar beet farm. And I tried farming with my dad for about a week, and I just hated it. I didn't get along with my dad very well at that time. The work really wasn't kind of what I wanted to do. And so I asked my best friend Chris if he would take my job if I quit, and he said yes. And so I went to my dad and I said, "Hey, this is not for me. I want to try. I want to do something else. I'm going to call your best friend, who's a general contractor. His name is Bruce. I would like to try construction." And so I called up Bruce. Bruce said, "Sure, you can be my gopher, and I'll pay you $7.25 an hour." And I lit up, and I was like, "What's a gopher?" And he goes, "Well, you can go for this and go for that. When you're done going for the things, you can get up on the roof and learn how to do construction with us." And I was the best dang gopher that I ever had. Bruce was the first entrepreneur that I ever met, and he has influenced my life. I'm very grateful in probably one of the most profound ways any man has. Matter of fact, I even had dinner with Bruce for the first time, and seeing him in person over the Christmas break here, over the holiday break in the just a couple weeks ago. And so what really stood out to me, and I didn't realize it at the time, was I got the Rich Dad Poor Dad experience. There's a very famous book over here by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I read it about 10 years ago. And when I read it 10 years ago, I looked back on that experience I had that summer working for Bruce, and I went, oh, wow, I had the Rich Dad Poor Dad experience. My dad, who raised me on the farm, was essentially the poor dad, always worried about money, a lot of anxiety. The rich dad, Bruce, the sort of metaphorical father, was never worried about money. He just had a freedom from the anxiety of not having it. And so about halfway through the summer, Bruce pulls me aside, and this is the big sort of clicking that happened during that time. He said, "I'm paying you $7.25 an hour. How much do you think I'm charging the owners?" And I go, $7.25 an hour. And he laughed, and I was embarrassed. And I go, well, how much you charging them? And he goes, well, I charge them 2 to 3 times what I'm paying you per hour. And I go, isn't that immoral? And he says, no, and then he explained business to me: overhead, profit, incentive, insurance, all the things, and why that's how it works for a service-based business. And then I looked at, then again, I took a look at that time of like, wow, this guy seems like he's happy. Like, he doesn't worry about money like my dad does. It's just not his relationship with it is a much different relationship. It wasn't about possessions either. It was just, again, the relationship and the anxiety or lack thereof that he had. End of the summer comes, and he pulls me aside one more time, and he goes, "What do you want to do when you get big?" Because he saw potential. And I said, "Well, I want to be like you. Like, how do I become a builder?" And he said, "Well, next summer you actually don't work for me then. You should go work for another builder, and you should learn a different trade in the building trades." And I said, "Oh, okay." So I did that from 13 to 21. I spent the next 8 years working for somebody else almost every single summer, learning a different trade. I even went to trade school after graduating high school for 2 years for building construction technology. And then the second big light bulb went off in my head. And it was when we were completing our capstone project at doing building construction technology, which was putting together we had to build a house. And I pulled out the blueprints. And for the first time, the word architect really just it went inside my brain. And I went, if I become an architect next, I could get the clients first. I would have a sales funnel like no other builder would have, because we would get them first, and then we'd build it too, so we get paid 2 times. And so this is a 20-year-old thought, right? Like, I have a 21-year-old son, and he can barely clip his own nails. I mean, it's just radical. So applied to North Dakota State, 70 miles north, got into the architecture program, and just completely fell in love with higher ed. Graduated at the top of my class, and then one more light bulb went off. And these are all coming from God, by the way. I just want to acknowledge that. I always try to say that publicly. God is the inspiration, right? These where do thoughts come from? God. That's, you got to give thanks to the guy above there. So I was just so blessed that, like, to get this trajectory from him. And so the third one was, the second one, light bulb that went off, was then when you're in architecture school, you go like, oh, who hires architects? And they're called developers. And I was like, oh man, I should become a developer one day. Then I could have all 3 things, right? I would hire, it would just be this ecosystem. So that's my background, and why I became essentially a serial entrepreneur and ended up forming 3 different companies: architecture firm, real estate development firm, construction firm. And then ultimately what led me to podcasting is like, because we have our own show too, and doing guest appearances on shows like yours, is I just believe in the entrepreneurial way, and that like the more entrepreneurs we have, if like God's blessed me with a very inspirational life, I'm wasting everything he's given me if I'm not following through with Genesis 1:28, which is be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful and multiply.
Amazing, amazing. And that happens to be one of my favorite Bible verses. I love that you mentioned that. Beautiful. So it's amazing your evolution and the journey and all that you've been doing. So I wanted to ask, what inspired you to start F9 Productions during the recession?
You know, it was push came to shove, and we really had no choice other than at the time I was laid off. Over 50% of architects, engineers, and contractors had no work. It was a really deep recession within that industry. And so the only way to actually try to continue on the path of becoming an architect and a builder and all the things I was dreaming of was I did have the ability to win work myself. You know, I could get clients, and so we did that. And when the idea behind the name F9 Productions is when Alex and I got laid off, my business partner got laid off so early in our career that we didn't have any built work, even from the firms we worked for. It was like less than a year. It was just dire straits. And the software we would use to render the buildings we were designing was that you would hit the hotkey on the keyboard, and it was F9. So all we had to convince clients to hire us was F9 Productions. All we had was the renderings. So that's why we named it F9 Productions. And then, you know, that sort of led to how we named the other companies. F10 Productions then became Alex's book. F11 was a design build project we did for Subaru. F12 Productions became our real estate development company and now holding company. F14 Productions became our construction company. So yeah, that's the idea.
Amazing, and thank you for sharing that. So you mentioned that you also have a podcast. So how did Inside the Firm become a top podcast?
Man, discipline and perseverance. So there's some
Hmm,
crazy statistics that you hear about podcasts, which are I didn't even know until I got into it. I've always been a very disciplined person since a young age. I mean, I was actually guesting on a show right away this morning, and the insight from that host, I'd never heard him. He goes, wow, that's a lot of discipline um, for 8 years as a young man to just keep going on that path of like different contractor, different trade, and just head down. And he goes, no wonder why you could make that leap. And you knew what you wanted to do. So the same, so I guess it's just kind of innate with podcasting is the statistic is like, I think like 25% of podcasts don't make it past episode 25, and then it kind
that's
of
right.
keeps growing. Yeah, something like that. So what it took is just we gone, all right, we're going to do it. We're going to continue to do it every week and just not look back until we have met some goals, right? And so here we are. We started it in 2017, and again, we got to year 7. It also coincides with like business. So um, most businesses fail within the first 7 years. So when we started our show inside the firm in 2017, that was our 7th year in business. And something happens at 7 years is you go, well, we're kind of coming out of the startup phase. Like our chances of failing are vastly diminished. We should tell our story. This is like we did it. We did
Hmm.
it. And so that's really what it was. And it's all the way back to that Genesis 1:28 again. It's like I'm not that kind of architect that holds stuff close to their vest. In that way, I believe that the more you give, the more you get without even thinking about it. It's just like be fruitful and multiply, bro. So uh we have done the podcast now. Let's see. So if we started in 2017, it's 2020, almost 9 years, coming up on the 9-year anniversary. And we're 800 episodes. That's really what
Wow.
it took. It just took being Authentic, raw, real, and disciplined.
And perseverance. That's a beautiful one, my man, and I love that. So we have two more to go, okay? So, what business lessons have you learned from fishing? You got involved in fishing?
Yeah. Yeah. Some people golf. I fish. But I
Mm,
always use the golf analogy when I think about business, which is especially when it comes to our industry with your, where you're doing it's like an architect or engineer, contract builder, or even a realtor. Like my wife is a realtor. And I say, I say to her, like she's told me before, we've talked before, that it's an 18-hole game of golf. You might meet somebody it might take 3 to 5, 10 years before they actually hire you. Because there's a lot of capital involved. There's a lot of planning. You just never know where life will take you. So I think of it like fishing in that way. It's like you might have to fish at the lake all day to catch that one big fish. And that's what I've learned is so it really helps me just make an analogy and a through line from fishing to business.
I got that, and that's so true. And that backs down to discipline again. Okay,
Hmm.
so how do you juggle being an architect, podcaster, and a father?
Well, I've been trying to also when I guest on shows or even in our show is start putting into the ether a different phrase than we've been hearing in the business world for about 20 years. We've been hearing in the business world for about 20 years. Work-life balance. And what I don't like about that is just scale comes up in your brain and you start going, "Oh, I'm trading." And really I think it's more about I want to infuse into the culture like work-life harmony. How can we make a work-life harmony happen so that you're actually not trading or competing against different things? And the way to do that is you have to do a couple different things. Number one, you got to be incredibly intentional with your time. So I schedule everything. I even schedule like uh time with my children, time with my wife, time with friends, personal stuff. Like I block it out on the calendar. I have a call with a girlfriend this afternoon, and it's on the calendar. She texted me this morning worried I was going to get too busy, and I go, "Don't worry. It's all in the calendar. It's all good. We're going to have our phone call." So, number 1 being intentional with your time. Number 2, you having a top of mind mentality. So, a good example of that is like if I'm going to work in the morning, I have this actually really nice dreamy walk. Just I have a 24-foot walk from my condo behind me to the office. It's almost like a live work. But um, I wanted trout tonight to eat. So I went and I have them in the freezer because I caught them. And it was as soon as I thought about the idea and I went that I want trout, it was because I need to take them out in the morning in order for them to thaw in the afternoon. It was, oh, top of mind. That's top of mind. Go do it. Top of mind, get it done. Like right away instead of letting those things fester, right? Because some people will think of something and maybe they'll write it down, but that it's still on the list. It's not done. So having top of mind mentality and top of mind action is the way if you're gonna be like me and you're gonna do these diversified things and a lot of them, you have to be that actionable with them. And the third one is being proactive in thinking about your time. So I know my business partner does this, and because we just talked about it, and he does the same thing as me in a different way. Like on a Sunday morning, um, before church or something, I still open up my laptop and take a look at my calendar for the week, and I go, oh, okay, here's what's happening for the week. What are my priorities? And then I do the same thing in the morning, each day. Open up my calendar, and I'm only focused on during the weekdays what is happening that day. What do I need to get ahead of before everybody else gets up? Because I start my days very early. I do something called the morning hours, the golden hours practice. And, I wake up at today I woke up at 4:30. first thing I do is drink a big glass of water with electrolytes. I grind coffee, put the tea kettle on, and then I go pray the rosary and stretch. When I'm done with that, the coffee's pretty much ready to start making. Take it out of the tea kettle and put it in the French press. Get to my computer, and then the sun's starting to rise, so I'm getting my circadian rhythm is being influenced naturally. And those golden hours are literal golden hours because the sunrise is golden, but also like that's where you make the most money. That's where your golden ideas come from. And that's where you get ahead of the world. So I'm ahead of everybody else, and I'm pulling it in the direction I want it to be at that day. It's not letting me. I'm being proactive.
Hmm. You have some very vital information, and thank you for sharing that. I tell you, it is truly golden. Okay, and I'm going to take that as a final thought, Lance. So, for folks who like to reach out to you, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, or even ask you questions, how can that be possible?
Yeah, if they want to they can go to f9productions.com, sign up for our newsletter. You can find my contact information there. It's our main website. You can go to LinkedIn and link in with me. First name Lance, Lance, last name Cayko, Cayko. And then you can go to Inside the Firm podcast and listen to all our shows. Okay.